Please go to the diary room.
Every single season and learn everything that there is to know about everybody.
Please make your way to the diary room.
Celebrity, Brandy.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of The Diary Room with another super exciting guest. I cannot wait for today's episode. I, of course, am Matt. I'm here with Aman. Aman, how are you?
Very, very excited once again to be back to talk all things Big Brother matchups and the like with, yes, very, very highly anticipated guests. Our first time meeting. Super excited.
I am so excited. We have another winner on the podcast today, another representative from Big Brother Canada here with us today. It is the latest champ and unfortunately possibly the last champion, but we're going to hope that's not the case. But Bayleigh Pelham is with us today. Bayleigh, how are you?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm excited
so
to be here.
Like a dream guest.
Oh my God.
Excited to have you here.
So much.
No, when I tell you, I mean, Matt is being modest right now. But when I tell you that, like, he is like your number one fan, he is like your number one fan. So I'm super excited that you are here, not only for the show, but specifically for my
Matt. Oh my God. I hope I don't disappoint. They say don't meet your heroes.
I know. And look, I'm not worried about it. Bayleigh, like, I think that's where I kind of want to get started with you is when you got done with the show, when you were released back into the wild with the rest of your castmates, were you able to feel the love and admiration that existed, that probably certainly does still exist for the game you played, for the energy you brought into that house?
I did. I was very fortunate. I felt it finale night, honestly, even before I came out of the house. I kind of like, because you can kind of hear some stuff inside, and I heard a lot of cheering for me. And I honestly, I thought I'm either going to have fans or I'm going to have like a lot of haters. I was so nervous about people not liking me that I was like very pleasantly surprised when I came out of the house. So much love and support. Like I couldn't have imagined it any more than that. It was crazy.
It was again, unfortunately, as of right now, it's the last season, but like what a season to go out on. Truly, it's, you know, the battle that they set up. This is what I commonly talk about when people kind of dropped off for seasons 11 and 12 because of the lack of feeds. And we know that story. But when people say they haven't watched it, I say you really need to watch 12. They brought in these two veteran players. For anybody that hasn't seen 12, here's your pitch. They brought in these two veteran players, Anthony and Victoria, aka Spicy V, who are, you know, by all purposes supposed to be the stars of the show. But along the way, you have this rising star here with us on the podcast today who goes on to win the season and become like the third legend of the cast alongside Anthony and Victoria. And just watching that journey is Bayleigh, what Aman is talking about as to why I enjoyed the journey for you so much and have been such a fan of watching that game for you. And then, you know, you go on to RHAP Trader. So it's great to have you around in the community postseason.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I'm actually very glad that I had the journey that I did and didn't look so good for me at the beginning because it made for a better ending. And I feel like a lot of my fans are fans because of that start to finish journey. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course. Aman, do you mean to be muted? Nope, you don't mean to be muted. It happened.
I hope I'm still on the right mic.
Oh, you're not on the right mic.
Okay, I'm going to go back on muting. One second.
Okay, you figure that out. But so look, again, 12, I really enjoyed. I'm glad that we got the one last season in because even with the lack of feeds, I feel like the cast delivered. Obviously, the two vets being there helped for the I'm sure you can speak a little bit to the gameplay. Maybe not everybody loved having them there for that aspect. It worked out fine for you. But overall, again, I just was very pleased with the entire package of your season. So, and again, you walked away with the money. So
somehow, some way, yeah.
Yeah, I will say that that's definitely like a big reason as to why I think it was just so interesting to watch your game because everyone likes to talk about master strategy and someone playing a perfect game and all of this manicured, tailored decisions to lead to the perfect ending. But that's boring. We kind of like it when there is like a rough around the edges type story, some adversity, some controversy, and just humanity in watching someone play a game. So For sure. I mean, I feel like a lot of us were starting to root for your momentum as we were beginning to get towards the end, and especially have someone that was in direct opposition to Anthony, because there needed to be
there had to be one.
So
Yeah.
I definitely echo Matt's sentiment there for sure.
The dynamic between you and Anthony Bayleigh is what drove the season for me. It was like, okay, we know that Anthony and Victoria were gonna either be friends or go at it. Eventually, they did both in a very explosive way. But then you step in this relationship with Anthony that is so like, it's like one day super hot, one day super cold, you know, back and forth, and all the way down to this being the final two of the season. Again, it was just you can't write it.
I was gonna say you can't write it better than that. I was fighting for my goddamn life every day in there, but it made it interesting. I couldn't have done it without him. And, you know,
do you feel, I have a question. Do you feel like, how do I phrase this? Do you feel like a certain like level of like, sort of like pride in the fact that you could be the last ever winner of Big Brother Canada? And with that, there's some sort of like, come like this sort of like pressure to sort of be like the last person to hold the torch, or are you kind of more just sort of like, you know, I want to see someone else go through the shit that I just had to go through. Like I watched everybody else do it, and now I got to do it, and now I want to see what it's like to be on the other end. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like everyone else who has won this game gets to have the experience of like becoming part of that alumni, and then, you know, passing the torch, and it's a whole other experience in itself, watching the next season, how you feel about that season, maybe even coming back for a show or whatever.
Yeah.
I was very disappointed that might not happen for me. Like I won't be able to watch this experience for like a new season as like a veteran.
Right.
I did feel like not a lot of pressure, just kind of like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like I was kind of thinking people might forget about me now, because now they're going to go back and like think about other big winners. I don't know. It was a very weird feeling. I really still have hope that it'll come back. Everyone's kind of like, isn't it amazing? Or the last one? I don't find it amazing. I want to be like, I want more people to join our group. But you know, 12, I mean, season 8 didn't happen because of COVID. So there's really only 11 of us in this small group. So it's an honor and very cool. If it only stays the small group, I feel very honored. Yeah. But I hope it grows.
I think,
Yeah. You still got that cough, especially just because BBCAN does such a good job at highlighting their winners. I mean, I think back to like in season 6, in the final 3, got a chance to talk to all of the winners. They brought in all 5, technically 6 with the brothers winners in for like that scene to be like, do you want to join our ranks and be the champion? And like that was great.
Yeah.
So you know, they certainly would and will, I'm sure, have you back at some point for something like that, if we can all have our way and the show gets renewed. But look, in the meantime, you know, Traders Canada, I know you're gonna call. So
let's hope so. Put that energy out there. That'd be fun.
Yeah. I mean,
honestly,
I
am all for the sort of like North Amerification of Big Brother. Like if they're not going to bring back Big Brother Canada, then maybe, and this is coming from someone who's wanted to be on the show and is potentially asking for the casting pool to be even larger. Maybe you just do what Survivor did and open up the process to the Canadians. I mean, if they're not going to bring it back, then why not? But if you do bring it back, whatever Canadian television company decides to do so, I think it would be a little irresponsible for you not to sort of like acknowledge. And I think that we're in good.
Oh, muted again.
You're muted again.
Amon's got either a bad mic or a bad cord. We're working on it.
You left off on it would be what?
I think it'll be a little irresponsible.
There we go.
I think that we're in good hands with them, with Arissa Cox, meaning that she will probably remain executive producer if it does come back.
Yes, hopefully.
Responsible not to revere the past seasons, especially with this gap that is going to happen. I mean, it's coming up to be March, and that's typically when we hear news about Big Brother Canada, and it obviously won't be back for this year, as far as I know. So when it does come back, there will be a considerable gap. I think you invite all past 11 winners, or just you do like what they did in Big Brother Canada or Big Brother 20. No. Oh, I mean, well, no, eventually because
BBCAN winners at war.
well, I think I'm not necessarily winners at war, but maybe the new season should be an all-star season, so that it's like, it's like a cap on like all that we've got to really see, because they still have not done a proper all-star season. But if they don't, I think it is something where it's like maybe they do what they did for Big Brother 20, where the premiere episode, like the entire audience was just nothing but past Big Brother players, so that we can really like ground ourselves in like where the show came from. I think that's something that really should happen should the show come back. Like, don't just like say we're back, guys, and like sort of forget about what happened before.
That kind of happens naturally at a lot of BBCAN tapings, so that might just happen on its own. But totally take the point. But Bayleigh, can we go back a little bit to your season? We don't know, of course, if BBCAN12 is going to come up on the wheel today. Note on that is that we are technically, actually, let me double check what number episode this is, because up until the episode right before this one, BBCAN12 has not come up.
Yeah.
Not
really?
once. So this is the 36th episode of this podcast. The last one that we recorded with some Diary Room patrons. And in the first matchup of the episode, that seal was finally broken, taking the pressure off of you to pull your own season. Dennis couldn't do it. But, I was like, oh, well, maybe it'll happen for Bayleigh's episode. It happened in the last one. The first player to finally come up from your cast was Matthew.
Oh,
Matthew
how did he do?
And he advanced to the next round.
Right.
He was in a matchup against BBCAN6's Marin. And we just, we're talking about the potential in Matt, and maybe in a different world where he was able to, I don't know, you want to say like not have the vets. There was potential there, I feel like, and you guys got him out because he was such a promising player.
Yeah, 100%. And he was a soldier, for the other side. So we had to cut him.
Yeah. But I want to take you back just into BBCAN12 in general and just ask you, when in the season did you see the winning path ahead of you? Was it, I'm sure it wasn't from day one, because of course you're going to lose your closest ally in the second week, and things got really rocky for you in that pre-jury phase. But when was it that you started to see the path?
Yeah. Starting off, it was like, you can't even think about the end game. You're just hoping you make it through the week. And I thought maybe I'll never see a path forward here. I don't know, because every day felt like war. But I do remember once we got to the final 5, we were outside. It was after a comp, and I kind of like quietly said into my mic, like so the producers could hear me, but I was like, I'm going to win this game. And I just felt it like wholeheartedly in that moment. I just kind of looked around, and I don't know. I just felt like I could do it. And if I had gotten past the double eviction thing and all of that happened once we got down to the final 5. And I was like, yeah, I think I can do this now.
Were you aware at that point how likely it was that Spicy and Anthony were going to turn on each other?
Kind of like, but when Avery and I were on the block together, I felt that Avery, me, and Spicy were the trio. Like, we are so tight. And Anthony was kind of hinting even on that. This is why I stayed on the block, and people have a really hard time understanding why I didn't get myself taken down, is because it wasn't like Spicy was going to go up and Avery would still go home. Spicy was going to go home, I think he was trying to do that. And I felt that, and I wasn't ready for her to go. So I felt the backstabbing coming. At that point, I didn't want to let her go, but I also didn't know a lot of stuff. So yeah, I knew that they were going to turn on each other for sure. I thought they were both just choosing me. So
I before this podcast today, I rewatched, I had to rewatch the Spicy and Anthony fight. Just television history was made on that day. And the funny part about it is, Bayleigh, watching, you, Lexus and Todd in the bathroom, just reacting to hearing the glass breaking and knowing what's going on in the other room. And that it certainly bonded the three of you in that week a lot to, to be not a part of all that mess. So just
definitely
great.
That was probably the craziest day in the house. Yeah. And it was all very real. Like the way that they showed it was very real time as it was happening. It was funny. It was scary. It was all the things.
I love that moment too, because like you could just tell that Spicy the entire season had been trying to really temper herself. And that's when, because there was a piece of me, and this isn't about Victoria, but I know, but there was a piece of me that like back in BBCAN9, I was like, if it was a little forced, if it was a little put on, do you really act like this? Are you really this passionate all the time? It's giving try hard. But then when I saw her finally get a chance to be like, you know what? No, fuck this. I was like, oh, okay, yep.
Oh yeah, no, that is her. She's
Mm-hmm.
I love her. I think that she's just on an entertainment level. She's everything. She's everything you'd want to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, from the second she gets evicted on her first season, she's a lock to come back at some point. You know, they make this season to bring back Anthony and Victoria because they have those characters available. But it's also just funny, like the story of the season. I mean, not just you and Anthony, but Anthony the first time around dominates the game with this boys alliance, and then he gets to come back for another season up with two women that are not going to not tell him how they feel at all times. So the fact that he had to play the game with both Victoria and you, and had to, you know, really get into it without just having these guys being like, yeah, whatever you say, Anthony, I agree. Just created a whole different dynamic for this really good game player that just, again, I can't say enough good things about the season. So
it was a good time.
I agree. Yeah.
So, and then that final five too, just again, watching you and the other newbies bond over the fact that you were like in a good position to keep riding it out. You get to final four. Alexis is going to cut Todd. And I'm like, oh, it would have been great to like see you guys somehow manage to get to the end, but I understand why that'll happen the way it did. And
there wasn't even a point in trying to get her to cut Anthony. It wasn't going to happen as much as it would have been epic, but you know, I should have won the POV. It's my own fault.
And you would have taken, I think you said you would have taken Lexus to the end, right?
Yeah. I mean, it would have been a really difficult decision having her and Todd. Todd was like my best friend and he would have taken me. But I did say that I wanted women to get to the end and I wanted a girl to win. And I don't know what I would have done. I'm glad I didn't have to make that choice. But over Anthony, 100%, I'd be taking Lexus.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the intro package. You said you're here for the girls and the gays, and that's when we said we're here for Bayleigh.
Yes, always.
So, look, I could talk BBCAN12 for a long time. Aman, any questions that you had on your mind that we haven't gotten to quite yet?
No, I asked my burning question already. I'm just excited that I'm excited that you're here, and thank you so much for saying yes.
Yes,
and
life's been good since the show ended. Everything's going well.
Yeah, it was a crazy ride. It's like everything went by in a flash. Feels like we just ended the show and we're coming up to the year mark where we went on. Everything's been honestly amazing. I'm so grateful for everything that's happened since and things that continue to come. It's been a whirlwind for sure.
And awesome. And you would do something else, right? If people come calling.
Oh yes, I would. Oh my God. Yeah. I will be doing yes.
Whether it's a Traders Canada, look, I really lost the battle of hoping for BBCAN representation on the challenge. It just hasn't happened yet.
Listen, if I can, maybe I can make it happen. You never know.
I can't think of a better pick.
It's my favorite. That's like literally the dream. This was step one.
I mean, if they're willing to put BBCAN people on X on the beach, then like, come on. What are we
taking everyone from the UK on the challenge? Like Canadians in there wouldn't hurt.
You don't have to pay for. Well, you could have paid for plane tickets, but like you don't have to pay for like overseas. They're right there. Like, just bring them on down and like let's make this shit happen. Like,
it's wild. Yeah, it's wild. But I've chatted with a few challenge house guests, and I'm like, just give TJ a call. You want to pass me his number? I'll call him. But
like by no means, like BBCAN players in general, I've always said like play at a higher caliber than most BBUS players who end up on the show purely just because it's an opportunity. And that's obviously not everybody, but there's a lot. In, the 16 through like 24 range. I don't know, 22, 23 range that were getting cast for that reason. BBCAN, it's never felt like that, save for one or two a season. So you'd have good game players. I think there's a lot of people that are just up for the job, but they haven't done it yet.
Yeah. American shows in general, you go on, you're going to get recognition no matter if you are into the game or you're not. Whereas here, it's kind of like you're going on because you're passionate about the game. We're not getting 1 million followers after the show. So, the passion I think is a little higher on this side of here.
Last question for you before we pull up the wheel and get to the first player today is what's your Big Brother history? I don't know how much we got that from you on the show itself, but we know the story. The story, came out a little bit after your season of who you knew from BBCAN 11 and some of that kind of stuff. But before BBCAN11. Is it a deep history with Big Brother, or like you knew of the show and then you applied?
Oh, I'm a huge fan of Big Brother in general. I auditioned for season 1 of Canada, and when I didn't get on, I got close, but I didn't get on. I boycotted it completely, and but I wasn't going to watch it unless I was on it. So I honestly didn't watch season after season because I was still auditioning. I auditioned almost every single season. I think there was like 1 year I lived in Australia, so I didn't, and I think that was it. It wasn't until like honestly season 11 where I almost got on, but the story was my ex-boyfriend was also there. He got on, he ended up winning. And then I got on for the next season. I binge watched a lot of Big Brother Canada, but I've seen almost every season of the US version. It's just been since I was like 12, I guess. I've been obsessed with the show.
That's some real hardcore boils. Like if I'm not I'm not watching shit. I don't want to see it. Like
I couldn't handle it. It was like it's too close for comfort. Like I got angry.
I know
it usually goes in reverse. People go on and then they say, I don't know if I need to watch anymore. But you said I'm not watching till I'm on, and that
well, and then I had to watch my ex win it all. I watched that one. And that kind of gave me the drive I needed. Like as soon as I walked in the house, I was like, there's not a chance that my ex is winning last year and I'm not going to win this year. It would be embarrassing. So I have
the craziest story. It's just insane.
Yeah.
But so I meant to ask you, Big Brother 8, that was kind of high on the list of seasons that you had sent me. So is that a season that you know like very well? Was that your first season or anything? Any particular story?
US 8, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have Evil Dick, and he is iconic. And that was his season, right?
Yeah.
That was like the season where I was like, whoa, I am into this show. And they had the twist of like rivals and stuff, and him and his Danielle. Like it was just a really dramatic season that really got me hooked. And it's a standout season for me. I've watched it more than once, which is like more than I can say about a lot of the other seasons I've seen. Like I go back and watch clips all the time from that because it was just so insane. So that was
we all have our season that is our Big Brother 8, like the season that we know just better than the others, and you can't really explain why. It just like sticks with you. So.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's pull up the wheel. Big Brother 8 is certainly a part of the wheel today, as are lots of other seasons that Bayleigh knows best. So
I'm scared.
For anyone that doesn't know the deal, Aman, what are we going to do today?
We are going to be spinning the wheel of all of the seasons that Bayleigh is the most comfortable with. We will have a name will come up. Matt will pull up the stats. I will also read a little blurb from the BBCAN to help refresh all of our memories. We'll give it a quick chat. We'll do the same thing again, matching that person up with another person, repeat the process, and then we will vote on who we are going to be evicting, and then we will rinse, repeat twice over.
Scared. Okay.
That's the fun. Look, certainly manifesting some BBCAN12 players to come up today. This wheel feels like it could happen. Bayleigh, we have through 36 episodes. This is the 36th. We have not yet had a player pull their own name, but we're hoping it happens at some point because that's an interesting thought. So
that would be cool.
Without further ado, away we go.
Let her rip. Let her rip, baby.
I love a guest's anxiety the first time that they have.
I have anxiety doing anything, so you'll get it from me.
Me too.
Well,
where are we going first? We are going to BBCAN10 first.
Okay.
We are starting off with Big Brother Canada 10's Marty. Now, sometimes we pull a name that's like, what do we have to say about this person? This was a big player in Big Brother Canada 10. There's a lot to talk about here.
The gummy bears.
Don't remind me about that shit. Anyway, Marty. Got a bit of a short little blurb here. Marty, a competition threat, but weaker social player. Marty lasted as long as he did on all of his wins and his alliance with Gino and JC Lynn. He was evicted predictably as soon as he lost both comps in 1 week. The BBCAN is a little shady.
It's always shady. like I said, a very big player here. Bayleigh, like the number one thing that I think about with Marty, and I'm sure most people do, is his back and forth with Gino. He would betray
Yes.
Gino and then kind of beg for forgiveness and then betray him and then accidentally betray him when he didn't need to in the final moments there. A lot of HOHs and a lot of time to wield power. And it was just such an intriguing journey. Not one that I would say a lot of American fans were rooting for, but obviously the Canadian audience had his back in a lot of aspects of the game.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, when it comes to Marty, I think he's just one of those polarizing fixtures on the season. Like, obviously, he comes in with the veneer of being the older guy, supposed to be the father figure. It can be very easy for him to be typically loved by his castmates, but not only the castmates, but also by Canada. I mean, we could see that in the fact that he won Canada's vote. And so there's that, but then he completely unsheaths that by being one of the most messy ass people, unapologetically, I might add, the entire way through. And so, yeah, I mean, if it weren't for the amount of the HOHs that he'd won, and had it, tossed off between him and Gino, I don't think that he lasts as long as he did, but I'm grateful that he did because it made the season quite messy and quite crazy. And this is a season that has Kyle Moore in it, so it was just,
Oh my god.
he was certainly quite the character, beneath the character, and I enjoyed that about him.
yeah, Bayleigh, anything specifically besides the gummy bears that comes to mind when you think of Marty's game?
I mean, this season in general had so many characters. But when you think of season 10, I think you have to think of Marty. And like what Aman said, if he didn't win, it's kind of fun to watch such a messy player win HOHs because you're like, what the hell is going to happen? He's very unpredictable.
Mhm.
But at the same time, he's very sensitive and caring. And like you said, a father figure. So that messiness it's even messier because his logical brain and his emotional side are always conflicting. I found him very entertaining. It's kind of like you hate to love him. As a fan of Big Brother, it's like, what are you doing? But as a fan, in general, like you're a fan of his. Obviously, he won the Canada's favorite. So
Yeah.
it's hard to work. It's hard to play with someone as unpredictable as Marty, but as a viewer, really entertaining.
Yeah,
he's certainly a big player in Kevin Jacobs' story. It's the first 2 weeks of the season. You have Kevin in such a precarious spot in the house, but we see right away that Kevin Jacobs is going to be the star that he is. And when Marty wins the week 2 HOH, and Kevin's like, well, I think Marty had mentioned at some point to Kevin, like using him as a pawn again after Kevin was already a pawn week 1. And Kevin's like, that's not going to happen. I'm going to stay by your side 24/7 and help you come up with a better plan using my help, like, so we can work on this together. And he stays in Marty's ear throughout the entire season to the point where, again, Marty wanted to use Kevin as a pawn in the week that the gummy bears come up. And that's what ends up sending Gino packing in that week. Marty tells Gino, I've betrayed you so many times in this game. You don't have to pull a gummy bear this week. I need a replacement nominee. I think it was Betty that came off the block. And if you want to just stay out of this and stay safe this week, you're good. And Gino says, no, it's only fair that all 5 of us pull a gummy bear. And Gino goes up. Kevin, Helena betray Gino. Gino goes home. And Marty, you could say lets it happen. It's tough to say. I can't even remember if at that point he was good with Gino leaving or not. But just the messiness of it all is.
It didn't really matter. He was good with Gino leaving one week. He was bad with Gino leaving the other week.
Yeah.
He would go constantly back on his word over and over and over again. I think the most frustrating thing about Marty for a lot of fans is that a lot of the other I'm so sorry. A lot of the other fan faves of the season in like Summer and like Betty, a lot of the times their games would be played with by Marty. Like the conversation with him and Summer when Summer was trying to convince him that what's his face was lying the whole time. And Marty was like, he's not lying. Nope. It's not. Nope. Summer, you're the one. It's you. And Summer had been loyal the entire time, which is like, oh my God. Like, it was so frustrating to watch, but he would go forward each time because he succeeds in chaos. But, I think it's definitely a lot more palatable of a rewatch because you know what's going to happen. You have to win. But before that, it's like,
it was just back and forth. Like, I mean, imagine a season like that, Bayleigh, like you playing in a cast where it's just the same two people winning HOH back and forth. Gino, Marty, Gino, Marty.
I'm so grateful our season wasn't like that. We had so many different HOH winners. It would be very frustrating because then you kind of have to kiss their ass. They keep winning. So like you're kind of forced to kiss. I wouldn't do well with it. Very grateful it didn't happen for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think it's exactly what you said, Amon, of like watching it back now, knowing the result, it's like easier to stomach, and knowing that you're watching the beauty of a Kevin Jacobs like masterclass in Big Brother along the way is helpful, because at the time, just every time he won HOH, we're like, come on, like we gotta do something else here. There were so many rootable characters in that season, and while again he got a good edit, I specifically remember him getting scenes about he was a coach, and a lot of people in the locker room were homophobic, and he did a lot of work to try to like squash that, and it was like really I appreciated seeing those scenes, but there was also a lot of things on the feeds that just made us not like root for him the most out of anybody else there. So
yeah,
that's that. But like, I don't know, it's tough to say for a player like Marty. It's like I could easily see him win or lose a matchup here, because while he won so much and had so many opportunities to use power, it's just like this one relationship that should have been so solid, him and Gino, and it was the messiest one of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's one of those players that needs someone to tell him what to do. And then when no one tells him what to do, he does something like, pick from a hat. So he's not very confident in his choices. He doesn't stick to one thing. Either you're going to be loyal or you're going to be messy, but like stick to one, because you can't really go back and forth. So I think that was his downfall for sure. If he just stuck to being messy and like owned it, might have panned out differently.
Yeah, and I'm also just always going to look at BBCAN10 with such a specific lens of like, you had to figure out Kevin, and if you didn't figure out Kevin, you're screwed.
And who could? No one was up to that task.
No, not at all.
No one was winning that game but Kevin.
No, and that's not to make this all about Kevin Jacobs, but sometimes you have to. He manipulated Marty, who was winning all these competitions, and Gino to an extent. He really got the showmance on his side and used the people that were winning like in a very masterful way. It's hard to replicate that kind of game, and it's like only really one person can slot into that, and he made sure it was him. And so again, this isn't the Kevin Jacobs poll, but
let's hope we don't pull Kevin Jacobs, because it'll be a landslide here.
You know what? That's okay if that happens. All right. Well, we do have to find Marty an opponent.
Yes, we do.
And the only way to do that is by spinning a wheel of names and seeing who comes up next.
Okay.
Let's see. You got the Messy Comp Beast versus. Wait.
No.
Okay. So the player pulled here is Kyle Shore. When I tell you all that are not watching the YouTube video that Kevin Jacobs' name was one tick away from coming up, like the wheel right now, zoom in, is on Kevin Jacobs' name because Kyle Shore was removed from the wheel, so it went to Kevin Jacobs. That's crazy.
Oh, are we psychic?
That was we manifesting stuff on this show sometimes. Bro.
But instead of Kevin Jacobs, we are going to talk about Kyle Shore, the second boot of Big Brother Canada 2.
Yeah, I mean, not much to say, and the wiki doesn't have much to say either. But let's say either Kyle's shirt was practically off within minutes of entering the BBCAN house, and he immediately made enemies with his brazen attitude. He was evicted by a vote of 9-1, leaving behind Paul and Adele. Pity.
There was no Kyle type on BBCAN12, right? Like nobody that was just like the jock bro dude.
I mean Matt was pretty jockey bro-y, but not an asshole or anything.
Not in that way. Yeah.
Maddie's like the sweetest, but like, yeah, Maddie was definitely that archetype when I first saw him.
Now, my memory of Kyle is that maybe he came off at first like that a-holy type, but didn't people kind of come around and really appreciate, especially the moment where he prays with Adele? Like that was like the moment for him that really sticks with people when you only last 2 weeks in the house.
Yes.
Wait, what was the question? I'm sorry, I missed it.
he prays with Adele, and it's like a really powerful scene on the show, and I'm pretty sure it was on the feeds too.
Yeah.
That just like again is really stuck with fans. Not much else to remember about Kyle, unfortunately for him.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's one of those byproducts of being one of the first to ever participate in something. The same phenomenon happens with regular Big Brother, or not regular Big Brother, but Big Brother down here in the States. I think it's just some people just come in there believing that it's a bit of a party. It's a bit of a summer campy vibe. Yes, they want to win, but they don't necessarily possess the tools to win. And I think that he just he felt like, if I can just come in here, sort of like put myself in the position to be in control, that it won't backfire. But there are too many other gamers in this cast to ever let that happen, and you're just making yourself an easy target in the beginning. Now, again, yes, there was like a little bit of like nuance to that, because thank you for reminding us of it, Matt, because I completely forgot about the whole praying with Adele thing. But so yeah, he definitely wasn't, completely just big, hunky guy that's just trying to control the masses. I do think that production sometimes, especially back in those days, can try to, influence people to behave a certain way because they're trying to create characters for a television show. So I don't know how much of that trap he fell into, but I do know that he wasn't able to like catch himself before it was too late, and just didn't really do himself any favors.
I do feel like Kyle represents like the type of player in Big Brother that is loyal to a fault that is not the good type of fault, if that is ever a good type, just because like he like the story for him was that he was so loyal to Pop and Paul Jackson, and Paul is such a big target coming out of his week one that anybody that's like Paul, Adele, and Kyle were like kind of the outsiders of the house at that point, and he like didn't care that he was an outsider. He was going to stick by Paul's side and be his friend all the way through, which is like great as a friend move. Again, shows signs of him not being an asshole because he was willing to stick by this guy's side who was being ostracized from the rest of the house in one way or another. But when it comes to the game, I mean, Bayleigh, again, I think you can speak to this because you were very loyal to your people, but there were like, it's tough. I mean, like when I think back to like week 2, you voted for Donna to stay, but it's not like that was make or break for your game.
No, exactly. I mean, I look at me, I let Spicy go, who I thought I was going to honestly ride till the wheels fell off, but you have to know when to let go. You are there to play a game, and you stay loyal as long as it's benefiting you as well. Like you do kind of have to think that way. And I feel like Kyle's one of those people that didn't really know himself very well going into the Big Brother house, and kind of lived up to this stereotype maybe that he wanted to be, or that he thought he should be. And then we saw some moments that humanized him, and I'm sure he's a good person. You just kind of get lost in like what you should do because you're on a TV show. So I think he just got kind of caught up in that, and stayed loyal to the wrong people at the wrong time.
Yeah, it's all about learning how to pivot. And I think we had like a similar matchup with the whole thing with what's his name? BB10, Matt.
BB10.
The one that stayed loyal to Brian, the gay one. Brian Hart from BB10.
Oh, Big Brother. Now I'm thinking BBCAN12.
I was like, Ryan.
Steven.
It's just one of those things, like where it happens in a lot in earlier seasons, where some people are in the mentality that once you have your team, you have your team. And yes, to a certain extent, that is true. Like you do want to establish an alliance, you do want to establish people that you're going to stalwartly be with, but you don't be as open with it to announce to the rest of the house, this is unbreakable. There's nothing that you can do stop, and I'm going to go through this thing to the end with this person no matter what. It's like, do you really want to do that with Paul? Like, because Paul was crazy. Like Paul was, it was to the point where Paul was outwardly calling people racist and stuff that weren't even doing anything. It's like, okay, all right, let's talk. At some point, it behooves you to be like, Paul, God bless you. You know what I mean? and Paul is like I just, it's God bless him. It is what it is.
Bless him.
It is wild that he, because I can't remember the exact details of why that vote went the way that it did. But Kyle's on the block against Paul in the week that he goes out, and again, Paul is like the big target there, but Kyle's the one that gets evicted. So I don't know if anybody else remembers, or at least let us know in the comments as to exactly what the situation was there. But not a great sign that when you're up against this person who's a lot, pretty controversial. Also, check your mic. When you're up against this person that's very controversial, that you're the one that ends up going out is again not great. But
yeah, not so good for Kyle.
Not the most memorable player. I don't know that it would have gone much better for him had he lasted deeper into the season. I don't think he knew the game all that well, especially judged by the fact that he was like loyalty. So that's that. But then here comes the decision. We have to decide if we're gonna send through to the next round, Marty or Kyle. Bayleigh, where's your head at on this one? Is it any tough of a decision?
No, not for me. Marty for sure, obviously, but just for many reasons. But Marty had a lot more heart. He had a lot more smarts to the game. His strategy was a lot better, more entertaining to watch. It's all around player. Marty, landslide for me, Marty.
Aman?
I have to agree. I think that Marty just, for someone that doesn't have the biceps and all that, physical stature that Kyle had, he certainly pulled through with those comps that he won. And I do think that as messy as he is, he has the capacity to create stronger relationships. I mean, we can talk all day long about how chaotic of a player Marty was, but he still was able to have people remain loyal to him, even though he wasn't loyal to them. And that's, something that's really important to have in Big Brother. So yeah, Marty for sure.
His HOH rates piss me off so much. I'm just thinking about them even more now. He gets out Jay, who was like slated to be like one of the most entertaining people of the season. And that was horrible to lose first or second technically. And then Marty also gets out Herman, who was like such an entertaining character also throughout the early part of the season. So it's just like every time he was HOH, you knew it wasn't going to be something that you were happy with the results. So that was annoying. Yeah. But all that said, I have to agree with both of you that Marty is the better player of the two. If nothing else, the comps he was able to win, just like having that power in the game. It's not like he was making horrific decisions for himself. Like Jay was a social threat, and a lot of that influence came from Kevin to say this is a move that we should make. But it's still, he pulled the trigger on it, and it was, I don't know that him and Jay were going to be best friends in the game. And he didn't have that great relationship with Herman, I think, all the way through the pre-jury. So it's like, we'll see if Marty can make it past round 2 to get to round 3 to a certain point. But for now, I think he can make it past Kyle Shore, and we'll let that be our first result of the day. So Marty advances, and we go back to the wheel to get into the second matchup here today.
Okay.
So far, all BBCAN. Let's see if BBUS pops its head in or not. Oh yeah, BBUS exists. Let's see. Up next,
a smaller wheel so we can see the names.
This wheel today is looking like BBCAN. Oh, so close. BBCAN 12.
Oh boy.
Oh my God.
Boy.
Ooh,
I'm sure Dennis is mad as hell. This didn't happen for him.
Dennis. Dennis, this one's for you. Whoever we roll next, they're dancing. I'll just say that.
Just like BBCAN12, we said you can't script it. Sometimes that works the same way here in the diary room. We pulled the name, by the way, Vivek, who was a castmate, house guest, fellow house guest of Bayleigh on Big Brother Canada 12. Ended up going out
12.
Free jury.
Yeah.
What a week.
BBCAN12.
Love it. All right, Aman, what do we have as a reminder of Vivek's game?
Vivek, despite multiple attempts at fitting in with the majority alliance, including turning on his closest ally, Dennis, Vivek was taken out by Victoria during a twist. I feel like a lot of the later Wikia posts are shady, especially the big
one. It's great.
I like it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it? That was it?
That was it.
Okay. Well, Bayleigh, we don't need the Wikia because we have you here to tell us whatever you want to tell us about your experience watching Vivek as a Big Brother player.
Okay. Vivek, so he's from New Brunswick, which is like East Coast. Okay. So I already felt like connected to Vivek in a way because we're all like Donna and Todd, and we're all very similar. And then we had Vivek.
East Coast Alliance.
Yeah. Which was never an alliance, just in case that wasn't clear.
Yeah.
But you know what? My first impression of him was that he was really eager. I felt like he really likes this game and he really wants to do well. And then Anthony walked through the door and it was just like Vivek had these puppy dog eyes for Anthony. And as much as he wanted to be like the big dog and say like, we got to get these players out, Vivek was essentially Anthony's lapdog. Oh my God, I'm being so rude, but he was. And he turned on everyone that he could have worked with just to be under Anthony's wing. And it was really like kind of sad to see. Especially that honestly, his eviction episode was sad because it was a shock. It was fast. It was not, planned. There was nothing he could do about it. But no, yeah. And then he turned on Dennis, which was honestly, you wouldn't think you could write something as diabolical as that. They were like the closest people in the house at that time. And for Anthony to be able to easily convince him to do that, like it wasn't that hard to convince him to stab Dennis in the front, not even in the back. That ruined his chances for the game right then and there. No one was going to look at Vivek and think that's a good guy to work with, except for Anthony, because he could see what he could make him do. I had my doubts on Vivek from the beginning, but it took a couple other people for that week to see it. Yeah, I got saved that week, so it was difficult to see.
Who was on the block? It was you and
me and Elijah.
Okay,
we're on the block. Kayla won the veto. She took me down, and I knew like that week's so interesting because before the veto was even played, I knew Anthony was up to something. I knew he was going to convince Vivek to put up Dennis because whoever Anthony wanted to go was going. Anthony wanted Dennis gone, and how's he going to do it with his best friend as HOH? He found a way. And so I knew before the veto was even played, as long as Dennis didn't win the veto, I was coming down. Dennis was going up.
I mean, so just to speak to you real quick, like, or for your game, like you were getting in this great position at this point in the game. Like all of the women that were, the beginning of the game is like, oh, let's make a women's alliance. Janine's leading the charge. She's not whatever. And then it kind of comes back together and they really pull you into the fold and say, no, we want to protect Bayleigh. We like Bayleigh. We want to work with Bayleigh. So all of this happening was such a big help for you going into the rest of the season.
Considering Vivek and I had a blowout fight just a few days before he won HOH. As soon as he won HOH, I knew I was going up, but I also knew he didn't really have the numbers to get me out because I had already developed such a strong relationship with a bigger group of people. I knew, I was hoping that he couldn't pull that off. So I thought it was kind of a coward move, to be honest. I think there was bigger fish to fry, but he didn't really know what to do. He just went after someone who yelled at him. So I knew there was going to be a bigger plan in motion, and I knew Anthony was going to spearhead that. So yeah, Vivek, very impressionable player, very easily manipulated, and not a very trustworthy guy.
Yeah, Aman, I'm sure you remember the scene of Dennis pleading with Vivek after this happened.
Screwed me.
Yeah,
I would have done anything for you, Vivek. Like it was. Woo! But it was so interesting because I remember, like, from what little we did get from the digital dailies, I remember Vivek being like one of the few in the beginning of the game that was like, gotta watch out for Anthony.
Yes.
Gotta watch out for Anthony.
Yeah.
And it was such an interesting position for him to be in because he was on Anthony's team.
Yeah.
So he really couldn't go after him. But I thought that was nice because it's like, yeah, Anthony can't really do anything about it right now. So you might as well, drop little hints here and there that anyone that could go after him maybe might want to. But then on the other hand, and again, it's scattered because we only get so much content from the digital dailies. On the other hand, then you would see him running information from the other side of the house back to Anthony. So it was like he's playing this very dangerous game of like the middle, and it's like he's being very vocal. But I think the problem was that not enough other people were being as vocal as him, and that's what makes Big Brother sometimes such a hard game because it's like you know that it's good to be in the middle, and you want to inspire players to create conflict with one another so that you're sitting pretty. But how you go about doing it is so key, and you need to. It's sort of like being on the freeway. Like if the speed is 50 miles per hour, but everyone is going 60 miles per hour, you need to be going at least 55. It's like you need to know when to speed up and you need to know when to slow down. And I think that he kind of was always like, and then as soon as Anthony gets in his ear and he just gets sucked in, it's just like he just throws caution to the wind and does whatever. But I felt like it was so poetic that that's exactly how his ass got. You get it how you live.
Just like
that poetic justice.
Once again, I say, you can't script this season where he gets saved by Dennis using the veto on him, and then the very next week he betrays Dennis, and the very next week he goes out being, I guess you could say, quote unquote, betrayed by the other people he thought he could trust. But like Dennis lays it out for him so clearly, saying like after the move is made, who is going to trust you? You are next. Like you can't just turn on your number one ally and expect anyone to feel like they can truly trust you going forward. And he asks him, he's like, who's going to trust you? And Vivek's, I think he says, Anthony. It's like, yeah, Anthony, the guy you just watched manipulate an entire other cast of players, shows up here as an alumni because of his great gameplay. That is what this man is here for. That's what he is known for. And yeah, he's going to be your friend all the way to the end and help you win the money.
Yeah. And like, the digital dailies doesn't show everything, but even, after he did that to Dennis, we didn't see Vivek. Like he wouldn't get up. Like he wasn't like talking to people. When that executive veto went missing, he didn't even get out of the room. Like he wasn't putting in any effort into the game after he did that, because he thought, I just did something for my team and I'm going to let them carry me through. And that was really pissing people off. Like people were saying Vivek has to go because like this guy just did the most evil thing in the game. And now he's not even trying to like make other alliances. He just thinks Anthony's going to like protect him now. So it was like, people were already kind of getting upset with just his behavior on the house. So he wasn't going to last very long, but I loved the way it happened because it was about to be me.
That's the thing, like that point in the season where we know like the story becomes more clearly for him about him and Dennis and the betrayal there, but like the bigger story before that was all of you that were on the outs, not necessarily like obviously again Janine, and then Donna goes and it's like, all right, well, who's going to be the next quote unquote outsider picked off, and it's like maybe there was a world where we were hoping that you were going to be able to work with Vivek and that this would be a mutually beneficial relationship, but that fight happens, you end up on the block that week. It's like, all right, there's no hope for this, and then everything just completely goes south for him at that point, and it's just not a good story. So
and it goes to show again, like just to give him a little bit of grace here, it goes to show just how strong of a player Anthony really is, and also just like how difficult it is for Vivek and you and the rest of the cast to really have to navigate Victoria and Anthony. Like that is not not an easy
poor Vivek. Honestly, he got caught right in the middle. Like I did feel bad for him after, and he's a really nice guy, so I don't want to get that confused with his game.
We're talking game,
But he did put himself there. Like you did start playing those things about Anthony. You had to know that was going to be.
He made those choices.
It did seem, Bayleigh, is this correct, that the betrayal from Spicy towards Vivek was what hurt him the most? Because I think he really thought he had her. It's kind of the sense that it seemed like from us.
Yeah, like he definitely thought he had, in his words, the girls in his back pocket. I know he felt like really close to Avery and Spicy and Kayla because they were all kind of pushing for that move with Dennis as well. And I think he was definitely blindsided by that. But again, it's like, you have to have awareness in this game. And if you really think these girls are more on your side than anyone else's, like it was just lack of awareness. But
it's just like,
I think he was.
It's like there's so many moves in Big Brother that like, you of course think of like Marcellus getting whacked upside the head with by Julie because he didn't use the veto on himself. This is like a little bit of a step below that, but like the person that shows through their actions that they are there for you in the game and takes you off the block one week, you backdooring them the next week just because people tell you to do it.
It doesn't make any sense.
It's insane.
And I really feel like there's a way for you to talk to Anthony about that doesn't send Anthony on this spiral of, okay, that we can't work together. It's like, you're asking me to be loyal to you. Oh, well, you would know better than us.
He instills that fear in you, though. Like, if you don't do what he wants, you're like, well, then I'm going next. Like, that really is.
How I felt. And that's fair. That is more than fair. Because again, Anthony is I mean, he's Anthony.
I mean, I found ways to talk to him and get
right, but exactly. That's what I'm saying.
did.
So it doesn't mean that you just lie over. I think it just means that you say to Anthony, like, look, you are asking me to prove your loyalty to you by being disloyal to someone who has proven their loyalty to me. If you really want me to be loyal to you,
right,
it should come with the expectation that I'm going to maintain my relationship, at least with Dennis, who saved me. Screw everybody else. If you want me to go after somebody else, sure, but I can't like do that to this guy. Like, and I feel like you should understand that. And then if Anthony doesn't understand, then he doesn't understand it, and then it's just game on and it's war between you and Anthony. Well, that's the game of Big Brother. But at least try. That's my thing.
I completely agree.
Well, you know what comes next?
Another spin.
We have to spin this wheel and find Vivek an opponent. Now, it does feel like, the momentum is not in his favor here. It does feel like we're in a world where like this could be a good matchup for whoever comes up next. But one thing that we know is that there are still lots of bad Big Brother players on the wheel.
Yeah.
And somebody
like
worse.
we're looking at potential, right? The potential they had, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So only
know.
one way to find out who is up next, and that's by spinning this wheel.
There we go.
We're gonna match up Vivek against. Imagine it's another BBCAN12. That'd be fun. Wait, it's so close.
Oh, dear God. Oh no.
Well, yeah.
Well.
I'm blind and I was about to scream because I just saw the two eyes and I saw the F at the beginning, so I thought that said Dennis Freitas. So I was just like, oh shit.
Oh, that'd be funny. Now, first of all, before we haven't even said the name yet, I will say it in a second. Again, the ticker was so close. It is currently next to Lexus and Tola. It would have been BBCAN on BBCAN, but instead we are going to dip into Big Brother US, and not just any Big Brother US. Yeah, CBS reality TV legend Cirie Fields is the name that we have pulled here. Amon muted at the moment. That's the other theme of the episode. But what a freaking pull here to talk about Cirie.
Oh, I feel bad that she's not up against someone else. But...
Vivek, look, it's
I want to name the poll. Like now we've really got a game here because I don't know who else is going to come up that is better than Cirie. Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's Cirie versus Vivek.
I know, but I mean later.
Yeah. Well, luckily that won't affect Cirie going through here, which is certainly going to happen. So we'll be okay. But Amon, do you have notes up for Cirie?
I do. All right, Cirie. Enter the house as a surprise 17th house guest, while secretly her son, Jared, was also playing. Together, they formed a strong alliance with Izzy and also Felicia, while connecting with other people on the outside. This allowed Cirie to become an early power player. However, her alliances would take pitfalls by evicting affiliates rather than enemies, which slowly placed Cirie at the bottom by the late endgame. With Felicia left as her only ally, Cirie became a pawn to the now dominant Mafia alliance, with two having neither strategic influence nor comps prowess left. In week 13, Mafia member Matt would win HOH and nominate the duo, leading to Cirie's eviction by a vote of 2-0.
Cirie Fields. Bayleigh, we asked you about your Big Brother history. Is there any Survivor history in that, or Trader Season 1 history in that?
Okay, no, I did watch her on Survivor. I didn't watch her on Traders. I actually watched her on Survivor while I was in sequester for Big Brother. Yeah, and I became a really big fan of Cirie. I didn't know her really before that. I mean, I saw her on Big Brother, and then I watched her on Survivor after. She is such a social beast of a player. And I know that she won Traders, right?
She won Traders, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's unbelievable. I love watching her, just the way she's so calm. And she's one of those players that gives us a lot more in the diary room. Like in her confessionals, she really like lays out her knowledge of the game and just how well aware she is of everything that's happening. She's a really smart player, but then, when she's playing in the game, she doesn't reveal that too much. So I really admire that about her. I mean, one of the best social players.
What season did you watch in Sequester? Do you happen to remember?
I think it was her first one. Her first
Panama
Survivor.
with Aris and Danielle and all
Yeah.
them. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, look, that's the OG experience for Cirie,
Yeah.
so that's a great pick. But yeah, of course, people that were there from day one or not, when Cirie showed up in that kitchen while everybody else is outside coming in from the comp, and she is just standing there in the kitchen, like the amount of people that ran to Twitter with the screenshot or a clip of some sort of Cirie, it was just like a moment that took our collective breath away. It's like there was a rumor that it was happening, but nobody believed it. We knew that Jared was there, but why would Cirie be there too? And then when you get that shot of Cirie in the Big Brother house, it's like, I am glued to my television. I'm glued to my Big Brother live feeds for the entire summer. And while she didn't go all the way, unfortunately, we got 93 days of Cirie playing Big Brother, and there were plenty of haters along the way. Oh, Cirie's not good at Big Brother. She hates being here, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Turns out she didn't like Big Brother as much as she liked Survivor. And it was a lot longer of an experience. It was very different. She's dominated all these other seasons socially. She's proved herself. She doesn't have much left to prove here. And I think that kicked in at a certain point, as far as like her mindset goes with being surrounded by these insane people that she was surrounded with. The mafia, come on, be real. But it was still so much fun to watch her play. She still accomplished so much. She was still Cirie Fields inside the Big Brother house. And I'm a happier person for getting to live through that experience, Amon.
Yeah, I mean, I remember exactly all the way, because I was not believing it. I was all the way up until they showed her in that kitchen with that damn champagne bottle during the premiere. I was like, it's not happening. You guys are all delusional as fuck. She's not going to be in the house. And then what do you know? She shows up in the house, and I had very mixed feelings about her appearance on the season. I still have very mixed feelings about her appearance on the season because on one hand, yes, it is Cirie Fields, known legend. We all know and love her from Survivor. I have been rooting for a win for Cirie, no matter what kind of win it is. We want to see it happen, and we finally were vindicated when it came to Traitors. So yes, of course, you want to see that happen for her in Big Brother, but at the same time, as a Big Brother purist, you're sort of like, sometimes mixed casts they can be rough. They can be very rough because you feel like on one end, the newbies are being cheated out of an experience that is supposed to be unique to them. Their season becomes automatically known as the Cirie season. And they have to navigate playing around a known entity as opposed to navigating an unknown entity, which I think always makes for far more compelling television. Now, with that being said, I think that BB25 certainly still was a pleasure to watch, and I think that Cirie is a big reason as to why. But it was back and forth. It was like, damn, I'm spending so much time solely focused on Cirie because I want to see this happen. But I'm also like, but I also like these other people. So it's just a very conflicting state of mind to be in for that amount of days. So there was like this rush of relief when she was finally evicted. I was like, okay, she proved herself. She made it to the end. Like she still has her Cirie-ness. Okay. Like she didn't lose anything by being here. She didn't win, but that's okay. We're used to her not winning. So with that being said, her game, I think she played a pretty decent game of Big Brother. I think that the very popular critique that she played Survivor in the house still kind of holds. I think that there was, no pun intended, a very tribalistic notion to her game, especially in the beginning and her sort of trying to rally up troops. I think that Cirie is someone that is used to a bunch of allies dropping around her, which is why I think, as the blurb said, as the game progresses and she does start to lose allies, she doesn't have the perspective of like, yes, that works a little bit more in Survivor, but in Big Brother, you really need, especially when you're not able to win comps, you really got to start thinking about like why that's happening and who's actually going to be with you in the end. Because yes, it's an individual game, but I think that Big Brother you really got to have those numbers if you really want to think about that win in the end. And it just became a little bit too late towards the end, and there really wasn't much more to do. And another thing that we have to think about is Jared. I don't think that she realized how bad her son
was gonna be
was
a big brother.
and how bad he was, and how much he was actually making her game worse.
Yeah.
Day after day after day, it would feel like she would go out and put little flames that she didn't even know existed, and then he would just light them back on fire.
I mean, from
And
day
I'm like,
one, she's telling him clean that up a little bit. From the moment they walked into the house.
yes, she is, but she can't be everywhere all at once.
No,
And so it's
which was a good thing at times. She didn't want to be around Jared all
Yeah.
the time in that
Yeah.
house. There was, but like just to like speak on specifically what you're saying, you mix a returning player in. We have a perfect person here to talk, about that experience. I mean, Bayleigh, you certainly, as far as I'm aware, didn't know you were going to have returning players when you're, getting
No.
ready for the season. So, you go in expecting, I'm going to meet all these new people, and all of a sudden veterans show up, and it's like, well, they are the centerpiece of this game.
Yeah. I definitely took away an aspect of the game where, you go in and you think, how am I going to assert myself? How am I going to be someone that's like leading the charge in a certain alliance or something? And that kind of all went through the window when Anthony and Spicy walked in, because it's like, they're just kind of the natural leaders of the season now. But it worked out. Like, you have to be able to pivot. That is the thing about Big Brother. So people get really upset if they have, veterans coming back. I mean, in Cirie's season, some people didn't even know where she came from. So, but our season, certainly you're aware, but you have to be able to adapt. I tried to use that for an advantage for me. I wanted to put myself right in the middle of those returning players, because I knew they have a lot of power. So it does take away some of the game for you, but it's just a whole other game, and it's part of Big Brother, and it could happen anytime. So you have to be ready for it.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. It's like, okay, obviously, Cirie's going to advance here. So another player that I'm just like very excited to see if she gets a tougher matchup the next time she comes up, because do I think Cirie is going to win the best Big Brother player of all time title here in the diary room? I don't. And I don't think anybody would expect that to be the case. I certainly think she could advance, plenty more matchups. Again, she still showed what she can do. She still is Cirie Fields, and maneuvered through conversations in the house and maneuvered through situations in the house that a lot of other people would fail at, because of the experience she has and the natural social abilities that Bayleigh, you were talking about. It's just, she is the legend of gameplay that she is for a reason. And, she certainly didn't show up and embarrass herself. And people that showed up, people online that were hating on her,
it's truly a marvel that she made it as far as she did. Like, if you are a true fan of these CBS shows, and you were on the season, I'd be like, why the hell is she still here?
Right. And we got to watch that happen with Corey. We got to watch him figure out, how do I do this? What do I do with Cirie? He was like the one that was so locked in of I know this is going to be a problem for me. I have to figure out what to do with it. So watching it through his eyes at times was where I went for that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we see, unfortunately for him, how it worked out, finishing a couple spots behind her, but obviously they both did not win. So it's
kind of crazy. And I'm sure they've talked about it, both Corey and Zach, but it's just kind of crazy that not only did Corey kind of beat Zach in placement on the respective shows, but it's also I got to play with Cirie, a Survivor.
It was fangirling hard on his season.
That's so crazy to me. But yeah, I'll end it here. But I just think that Cirie, one of the core differences of Survivor, especially if you are someone that is successful in the early game, that means that you're on a tribe that is continuously winning, which means that you don't have to worry about the group dynamics of vote outs. But for Big Brother, that's not the case. You have from beginning to end, you have to worry about winning, and you also have to worry about who's going to go home. And I think that finding that balance of how to give enough effort to those relationships that are going to be soured, I don't think that she did enough of that in the beginning, which is why towards the end it was very hard for her to sort of catch up. I think specifically of effing Bowie Jane, you could have had Bowie Jane in your pocket and you lost that relationship, and part of that is because of what Jared was doing, that you lost that relationship. And if that had not happened, I don't see any reason as to why the Mafia should even exist towards that end game. You could have kept Bowie Jane, and that would have been an entirely different end game.
There's people on this call right now that can speak to playing an end game of a game with Bowie Jane and figuring out how to navigate it.
Yeah.
As a fan, it doesn't look very easy to get yourself that step further beyond what Bowie Jane has in her mind, is what I'll leave that at. Bayleigh, here's my question for you when it comes to Survivor. Survivor, the traders, and the challenge all call you tomorrow and say they all want you. Where are you going?
The challenge.
The challenge says, actually, we need you next season. Where are you going between Survivor and the traders?
The traders. I want to have a bathroom and
Sure.
Survivor's like not my last. I would definitely do Survivor, but I would be like so out of my element. And like I need to eat. Like I'm a different kind of crazy when I'm hungry. So I actually don't even think I'd survive. Yeah. I actually think I would surprise myself. I wouldn't even know who I was if I was starving. So could be a entertaining season. I would say yes to anyone if they called, but
we're ready for it. So, okay. Well, and I also think you nailed the order. I think that's what I would go for.
Baby.
I got I'll get the markers and cardboard ready. We'll make some signs. But I'm about to pull the wheel up as if we already voted. We didn't technically vote. But hey, Bayleigh, what do you think? Cirie versus Vivek?
It's a really tough one for me. Cirie.
One vote, Cirie. Aman.
Yeah. Sorry, Vivek. Sorry.
Two votes for Cirie. 3 votes for Cirie to advance to the next round. That was easy. There's got to be somebody on this wheel that Vivek could have beaten, but it certainly is not Cirie Fields. So
we'll never know.
Cirie will move on to the next round, and we'll see if she gets a tougher matchup next time. Vivek will not move on, but we still have 2 more players to pull here. So without further ado, let's get the first one here. These matchups have been somewhat straightforward so far. Let's see if this one's tougher.
Get a good one.
Where are we going next?
Who do we got?
Claudia? Oh, Kristen.
This is Big Brother 12. Hayden's showmance, Kristen.
Floaters better grab a life vest, Kristen.
This is the one where I think some of us may be scratching our heads and saying, remind me? And I am someone. No, I remember her enough.
Yeah.
But
she's from Philly. Hey.
I don't know that we're going to have a whole lot here on Kristen, unless anybody remembers a lot more than I do. But Big Brother 12 representation back on the bracket here.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, what do you got?
Kristen. She was known mostly for her showmance with Hayden and her heated arguments with Rachel. In week 4, Kristen was nominated alongside her showmance, and she was evicted by a vote of 6-1, mainly due to Hayden's association with the Brigade. She placed 10th. She is remembered for intuitively being suspicious of the Brigade's existence and how she predicted their future actions, although her alerts fell on deaf ears before her eviction.
Yeah.
This, Bayleigh, is this the, are you and Kristen the same archetype? Are you the same casting in one way or another? Like, not afraid to confront someone, aka Anthony for you and other people for her?
I think in that way, yes. I think in other ways, very much no.
In gameplay, we will never compare.
Yeah. Her intuition, I think that she had a pretty good grasp of what was going on. Maybe because she was so involved with Hayden, I don't know, but she seemed to it was kind of sad because she wasn't going to get the chance to prove it or get an army behind her. But yeah, I can definitely see some similarities where she's very in tune. She knows what's going on. But will anyone listen to her? Plus, she had Rachel there, and Rachel just being as loud and persistent as she is, it's really hard to break past that. So, yeah, she had the card stacks against her, I think.
I think she could have been good alongside Hayden, if not for the chaos of Brendan and Rachel. But with the Rachel versus Kristen part of there's no way to avoid that when she's in the house with somebody that she so viscerally dislikes. It was bad. It was really bad. The confrontational aspect of her personality didn't come along with also somebody who was prepared to find a way to fix all of that and still move forward in the game in a positive way. Of course, Hayden's a part of the brigade, and the brigade wants the brigade members to be loyal to only the brigade. So the rest of the guys are looking at Kristen like, this is not somebody we need to go far with and have her distracting Hayden. So overall, like, my perception of Mon is not a very good player.
No, it's interesting. I feel like she sort of had a bit of a similar trajectory as Monet. She kind of fell into you took the bait with Rachel and now you got to pay for it. Like, you are in Rachel's crosshairs, and once you're in there, God help you. Like, she's going to continue to come after you, and she's not going to stop until you are gone. Now, I do think that, yes, she had some things going for her. She had the relationship with Hayden. She also had a relationship, or at least a friendship or alliance, with Andrew. And I think that she did a little bit of neglecting of that relationship, because a big reason as to why Andrew then decided to out Hayden and Kristen is because he felt like Kristen was eschewing her relationship with him because she was spending so much time with Hayden. And if she had maybe spent a little bit more time not fighting with Rachel, maybe that would have been more of a you could have had like a bit more of an army behind you, because there were other people in the house that could see what she saw with Rachel, and there's other people in the house that may have been a little bit more amenable to her talking about, like, you guys got to watch the guys, you guys would watch the guys. But I think, as the Lord says, it all falls on deaf ears, because she's already become persona non grata, because anything Rachel wants, at least in the beginning of BB12, Rachel's going to get. So it was not the greatest game player. Went out in a clown suit. Just not great. Not great.
Bayleigh, has your dog has joined us today?
Oh yeah, it says Artie.
We really need to keep count. We have so many pets join us here on this podcast that it is just a recurring theme. So cute.
He is cute.
We've been fostering another dog for the last 2 weeks. And so he hasn't been getting a lot of attention. So she's not here right now. So he's really trying to get as much as he can get. It's really cute.
Adorable. My like the core scene for me that sticks out with Kristen is, besides Floaters Grab a Life Vest, is her, like, after she gets into it with Rachel, who does have much more game sense and how to fix a problem like this in her own unique Rachel way. Rachel goes to Kristen to try to be like, can we move past this? Like, it's not the most genuine, but like, she tries to somewhat make amends. And Kristen is like not having any of it. And the obvious move in Big Brother is, if somebody offers you that olive branch, even if you don't believe it, even if you're not actually going to want to work with them going forward, you just say, yes, it's fine. We can move on. I'm sorry to blah, blah, blah. Play Big Brother, and she wasn't willing to do that. She was just so heated from that confrontation. She wasn't cast to be, the most strategic game player in that house. I think she was cast for this kind of drama that she brought to the season, and it totally paid off. Goes out pre-jury, but with some fiery episodes in the midst there. And again, you don't have Floaters Grab a Life Vest if not for Rachel versus Kristen. So
true. The
legacy, if nothing else, is from that. But for gameplay, we've seen better. So look, there's that. BBCAN12, not quite, but Big Brother 12, Big Brother US 12. Representation here on the wheel. So we got to get one more player before we get out of here. We got to match up Kristen against somebody. And again, let's spin the wheel. Final player here today for Bayleigh. Wasn't a ton to talk about for Kristen, but maybe we'll get another big name here. The episodes had some big names.
Ooh.
Oh.
Who is it? Oh.
Okay. Is
this 26?
This is Big Brother 26, Kenny.
Oh, yeah. Okay. This might be a good matchup. I don't know.
This is a matchup.
Come on, you're muted again.
Thank you, Bayleigh. Can I hire you full time?
Yeah.
This is my nightmare. This is hell. But we're going to talk about it. Bayleigh, you covered BB26, right? You and Dennis did some recaps. Was it YouTube, Instagram, both?
Yeah.
How was that?
Kenny was in my picks before the season started. He was in my top 3. I had high hopes for Kenny. He was from Boston, right?
Yes.
From Boston, yeah.
Mhm.
I have a soft spot for the Bostonians. Yeah, Kenny. I had high hopes for him. Again, it's like you need to decide what you want. Do you want to be here? Do you you go through that whole process coming from someone who went through the whole process twice. You are okay with leaving your family for 3 months. Like you have accepted that. That is like the number one thing that you have to like overcome to get all the way into the house and then like flip flop back and forth and be so open about not wanting to be there. Big Brother fans are going to eat you alive. People in the game are going to eat. You're just an easy target and you're not going to be respected or remembered.
Mhm.
So it sucks because anyone that doesn't want to be there just automatically is just shunned from the BB family. And he had a lot of loyalty. I think he could have been a good player. His potential was much better than what he showed us. I think he could have, he won a veto. He could win comps. He was loyal to Matt, I guess.
Kind of to Tucker.
To Tucker, yeah. Like he was
bit.
gonna look out for people. He kind of gave like Derek vibes, like
That's why I was so afraid of him, thinking that he was going to do well.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna really go under the radar and just be like the strategic.
Yeah.
Like Derek played, but he was the complete opposite. Big heart though, so I do. You gotta love him for being a nice guy, but nice guys don't finish first.
Yeah.
Nice guys just want to go home and complain about it.
But just go home. Do you know how many people want to be there and win money? Like in my mind, I'm like, if you win, you get to go home with a fat check. Like I can't imagine his family being too happy about him wanting to come home. So
yeah, I mean, all I'll say, Aman, is I can't believe I'm genuinely entertaining a world where Kenny could go through to the next round. I have no idea which way I'm going to vote in this, but this man.
Did the blurb help at all?
Oh, we didn't do that yet?
We didn't even do a blurb. I just went right in.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, it's so fresh that I don't even think that most of us really need it. But Kenny, after forming a friendship with Matt, Kenny quickly realized the hardships of playing the game and decided to give his game up for Matt. But Matt was ultimately evicted. Therefore, he continually expressed his desire to be evicted for missing out on his family, which was met with chastisement and ridicule by his fellow house guests. His wish was finally granted when he was evicted week 3.
Can I totally pause here on not the podcast, but totally pause on the discussion of Kenny? I forgot to mention the Cirie vote over Vivek was actually a 4-0 vote. We had a patron vote that was cast for Cirie. So Michael, shout out to Michael who voted for Cirie. Because it was such a blowout, I didn't remember to say it, even though I've had this card in my hand the whole time. But Bayleigh, patrons are able to cast votes at a certain level, and Cirie had a vote cast on her to help her advance. Turns out she didn't need it here, but worthwhile nonetheless to make sure she had that vote. So
cool.
That's what happened there. Cirie, a 4-0 winner actually in this episode. So just want to remember that before I get too far. But back to Kenny, who we're all here excited to talk about. I'm entertaining the idea of somebody who wanted to quit going through to the next round because it's possible.
Yeah, it's so hard with Kenny because in the beginning he did sort of form that like father-son type deal with Matt, and that's all fine and dandy. And I think look, like, I don't know, it's frustrating because as someone that wants to play the game, it's like, oh my God, like, come on. But also as someone that, as you get older and you start to realize that sometimes you make decisions in your life and then you're like, oh shit. So like, I don't want to begrudge anyone completely of having those sort of like moments where you're like, I may have jumped in a little bit too deep before I knew what I was getting into. That happens, but then it's the waffling. Then I'm like, okay, you wanted to give up your game for Matt. That didn't happen because other people are here to play the game and they're not here to play your game, Kenny. You're sour about that, and so then you sort of like pout for a couple days. And then when you find that your game could actually go well because the house has sort of found a bit of a common enemy in the next evictee and Lisa. Then it's all of a sudden I'm back in on it. And then it's like, I want to go home. It's like, okay,
Girl.
brother, go home then. Go
Yeah.
home. Like I don't. It like
It's like you can just go talk to the show psychologist if you're having a hard time. It doesn't need to be broadcasted all over the house. He could have left with a little dignity. No one even needed to know why he left. He could have just played a bad game and just got evicted. Like it was just he wasn't ashamed at all to admit that he didn't want to be there.
Yeah, I think.
But if you take that away, he could have been a good player.
Yeah, I think what I think happened is that I think, yes, there's a bit of the family thing. I think everybody misses their people back home. Who doesn't? But I think some of it is like you thought that you were going to be able to come in and run this ship.
Yeah.
And you thought that you were going to be able to relate to a lot more of these players. And then you quickly realized, I'm actually the oldest one here. And actually, it's a lot harder to relate to the youngins. And I don't think that I'm going to be able to play the game that I wanted to play, which is like, that's annoying because like so many people don't get to come in and play the game that they wanted to play. There are more losers than there are winners in Big Brother. That is just what happens. All you can do is just play with the cards that you are dealt. And what makes a good Big Brother player, whether you lose or win, is someone who is adaptable. And he just wasn't willing to do that. And that's annoying as hell.
Yeah, agree.
There's not much else to say about Kenny. That's his story. He, was kind of working with Matt, kind of working with Tucker. The screenshot of him and Matt like hugging on the block when Matt is about to get evicted is such a wild screenshot that lives in my brain, unfortunately or fortunately for whatever reasons. But the story is he didn't want to be there. Again, he got activated anytime that he went into a competition. He was like, oh, this will be my moment. And if I win this, I'll have the drive to stay here a little bit longer. But otherwise, just nothing. A flop of a player, a waste of a casting spot, and somebody that I am slightly considering advancing to the next round simply because he's up against a firecracker, somebody who just did not play well either. Of course, there's an aspect to Kristen where you can say, well, at least she wanted to be there and wasn't showing signs of wanting to quit. I do also want to point out another fact about Kristen is, if you go to Kristen's BB Wikia page, now, Aman, you wouldn't have seen this because we have all the Wikia blurbs copy and pasted to our own document, blah, blah, blah. On her page, there is no picture of Kristen. No picture at all. Everybody else, their picture is on the page. There is a note at the top of her page that says, note, this was a mandatory page change due to Fandom, which is the site that hosts the Wikia. This person, Kristen, has contacted Fandom staff and filed a formal complaint request to remove an image. Do not re-upload image.
Oh, God.
Interesting.
If that was too many words for anybody, she contacted the website and said, take my picture down. If you think Jen Johnson was reacting wildly over her picture in Big Brother 8, Kristen went all over the internet to ensure her picture that I guess she didn't like was taken off the BB Wikia and was successful in this attempt because there's no picture up right now.
That's crazy. Did you have like some sort of surgery? Like people saw you in your underwear waking up. Like you, that's what if I leave the house and I don't look good, I'm like, well, everyone's already seen me at my worst. Like it doesn't really matter if you're on a show like Big Brother,
right.
They see all angles of you, but
interesting. Oh, she's not the first person to erase her past, but hey, the internet is forever, baby. So it's gonna be somewhere whether you like it or not. Unfortunately,
she's gonna come knocking at our door because we just showed the picture. It's just a cast picture. It's just a picture of her, and we just showed it. I don't know. I'm not worried about it. But with all that said, that additional information, do you guys feel confident? Because, like I said, I'm a little back and forth. Bayleigh, let me turn to you first again.
I'm having a hard time because I think both of them played bad games in their own way. Kristen obviously got further, but I don't know if it was like by her own doing,
Yeah.
You can't really see past Kenny not wanting to be there, but if I'm just looking at potential players. I think I'd have to say I think Kristen is the more intuitive player. I have a tendency to blow up. I think that she would get herself in some trouble. I think that she's a little bit too stubborn. But if I'm putting her up against Kenny, I think that she would go further every time.
I mean, you're also talking about all the blowing up that Kristen did. She was also in a house with Rachel Riley, who is one of the biggest antagonizers in Big Brother history. So,
Yeah, and like she didn't back down to her, which I find like, that's empowering. You shouldn't. And I think she stood her ground and she stuck by her opinions. She made her choices. Whereas Kenny flip-flopped, and like you can't be a flip-flopper in the game of Big Brother. So I think my vote would go to Kristen.
Amon, what are you thinking?
I think, I'm voting Kristen through. It wasn't too hard for me because I think that anyone that wants to be there over someone that doesn't, I think is always going to get my vote. And also, I mean, she did sniff out the fact that there was something going on with the men, and that's because of something that seemingly should be because of her relationship. Like Hayden told her, I'm not going to campaign against you. And instead of her being like, oh, that's so sweet, we're in a showman's, he doesn't want to say a bad word about me, she was like, something's going on. And I don't know if every player would be that attuned. So yeah, Kristen. For sure.
Yeah, I feel like there could be some people out there that were hearing me say, I'm going back and forth and saying like, are you kidding me? This guy wanted to quit the game. And I get that. I think where the thought in my head comes up of like why I would vote Kenny through over Kristen, again, who's a very like explosive player at times, is just because like Bayleigh and I were saying, like the potential that we saw in Kenny was enough to make me like feel like if he wanted to stay in the Big Brother house and wanted to play a good game, the potential would have been there. I think he could have gone farther than like Angela. When you look at like, sometimes they take that older person deeper into the game because they can be a worthwhile person. They think they can beat them in comps, and maybe Kenny would have won comps a la like a Marty, we talked about earlier in the episode. But the one time he showed up to a Big Brother house, he didn't want to be there. He didn't want to play. And when you have the option of try to play the game or just complain because you don't want to be there and, show up and compete in comps, like, I don't know, then try out for the challenge, and you're not going to get on and you're going to want to quit that too. But you had one chance to play Big Brother. You cried about it the entire way through. And I'm sorry, you missed your family. I'm glad you got to go home to your family. We all were. We were hoping that it would happen as soon as you wanted it to happen as well. And so we won't keep you in the Big Brother discussion any longer. We'll send you on packing, evicted from the bracket as well. 3-0 vote. Kristen advances. Great matchup for Kristen. This is her best case scenario.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible. So to recap what we had today, we just saw Kristen from Big Brother 12, US 12, advance to the next round with Kenny from Big Brother 26 evicted, as probably he would like to be the case. Cirie Fields came up today and she advanced to the next round, while Bayleigh's castmate, Vivek, did not get so lucky. He has been evicted from the bracket. And the first matchup we had saw Big Brother Canada 10's Marty advance as well to the next round over Big Brother Canada 2's Kyle Shore. There's the recap. We did it. Bayleigh, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. That was so much fun. I didn't think I'd have that much fun spinning the wheel, but that was a great time. Flew by.
You never know what's going to come up. So that's the scary, but also the fun part about it. And just great to pick your brain on BBCAN12 and whatnot. Obviously, we're hoping that it's not the last time we see you on some show. So
thank you. Me too. Thank you so much.
Where can people keep up with you if they would like to do so?
Oh my God, I'm everywhere. I'm on Instagram, Bayleigh. I see that Amon, you have Rihanna behind you, and that is a little note to my girl Rihanna. That's how it became Bayleigh. Yes. I'm on Instagram. I'm on X at Bayleigh Pelham. I'm on TikTok. I'm all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, by the time this episode comes out, it's a little bit in the rearview mirror, but of course, a very fun run on Traders RHAP. Just
Yes.
a fun day to watch that happen. Almost the same as like BBCAN12. Like every time we were like afraid that it was going to be the end of the road for you. People are saying your name, like, and then all of a sudden, survives. So
I don't know what it is, and the anxiety I didn't get better at it. So it might be my superpower. I don't think it's going anywhere. So we're just gonna hang on to it and see how we do in the next one.
Yeah, I love that.
Aman, how's Drag Race?
Drag Race is good. Make sure that you're checking out me, Leon, and Beth over at RHAP for all of the weekly recaps. We just released the recap for episode 3, and we're going strong for season 17. And if you are a viewer of Drag Race, Bayleigh, we would love to have you on.
Oh my God, I would love to.
All right, say no more.
Hopping through all the podcasts. We're all taking advantage of the Bayleigh Renaissance here in early 2025.
Look, I'm booked and busy. I like it.
Yeah. For me, of course, check out the Free Agents podcast, talking about the traders and the challenge, which again, hopefully we'll see Bayleigh on at some point. So check that out. And if you like what you saw here today, check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/The Diary Room. If you want to cast a vote on a player that you would want to make sure goes through to the next round, like Michael did for Cirie today, you can do that. You get access to the battle back votes. Every so often, we have players return to the competition. I don't know if anyone from today is going to get votes to come back in, but you know, stranger things have happened. So check that out. Join us over there for you get the episodes early, ad free, all that fun stuff, all those perks that come from supporting the podcast. Make sure you're subscribed, like the video, all those things that you can think of while you're watching the video or listening to the podcast to help us along. We're on social media. You know where to find us. The links are all in the episode descriptions if you want all the specifics. But thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Bayleigh, so much for being here. Thank you, Dennis, for the assist in helping us contact Bayleigh.
Yeah,
shout out to my boy Dennis. I'm glad we got to, poke a little knife into me.
And Aman, close us out.
Yes. Our thanks to BBCAN12 winner Bayleigh for joining us once again. And until next time, guys, please go to the diary room.